In about an hour from now, Imran Khan will address his country. The cameras of the world will be turned to him as all roads point to his exit from office. His options are limited: facing the trust vote, which he's sure to lose, mass resignation, which is sure to create chaos, or imposing an emergency, which is sure to cause more suffering to the people of Pakistan. Which ball will he play? I wouldn't want to hazard a guess. Pakistan politics has more plot twists than Gone Girl or any other thriller you can think of. The opposition is already celebrating, though. Reporters are asking Shehbaz Sharif if his new Sherwani is ready. He's tipped to be the next Prime Minister. Where does all of this leave Imran Khan? Back on the streets, most likely, doing what he knows best: agitation politics. It's a tumultuous time for Pakistan, with inflation in double digits, growth grinding to a halt, debts mounting, and power politics overshadowing the issues of the people. On Gravitas tonight, we'll discuss all of it. Pakistan is at a defining moment. In the next 24 hours, the country could either get a new Prime Minister or slip further into the abyss of political uncertainty. It all depends on what Imran Khan decides to do. Will he fight till the last ball and face the no-confidence vote, or will he duck the vote and hold the political system hostage? The answer remains unclear. As we speak, he's preparing to deliver an address. It's expected around 10 p.m. IST. In about an hour from now, Imran Khan will appear on television and reveal his motives to the people of Pakistan. Some say he's going to resign. Others say he will announce a dharna, which is basically a protest to block the vote from taking place. And both remain plausible possibilities. Pakistan's opposition doesn't seem to care, though. It's in the seventh heaven already, celebrating on the streets, waving flags, bursting crackers and distributing sweets. They say Imran Khan has already lost, and that it doesn't matter what he decides to do now. There's no way he'll remain in power.
पूरी आवाम आजाद हो गई है। ये कहते हैं कि ऑपोजिशन जो है वो इलेक्शन से भाग रही है। ऑपोजिशन इलेक्शन से नहीं भाग रही। हम इलेक्शन भी करवाएंगे, हम डॉलर भी कम लाएंगे, हम आटा भी सस्ता कराएंगे, हम चीनी भी सस्ती कराएंगे। हमने सारे काम करने हैं जो इस मुल्क के और कौम के मुफाद में हो। सुप्रीम कोर्ट का आज जो फैसला है वो आइन की बालादस्ती है। इन लोगों को क्या पता चोर दरवाजे से हुकूमत में आए? इनको आइन का पता नहीं है, इनको इदारों का तकद्दुस नहीं पता। तो ये इन लोगों को जमहूरियत का हम बताएंगे हुस्न क्या होता है।
What explains this confidence? The numbers. Imran Khan doesn't have them. Look at this graphic. As of the 3rd of April, when the no-confidence vote was first expected, the PTI and its remaining allies had just 164 seats in Pakistan's National Assembly. The opposition claimed to have the support of 177 lawmakers. That's 5 more than the magic number of 172. That is the halfway mark required to win the no-confidence vote. 172. And the opposition sits comfortably above that mark. The math is clear. With these numbers, they're sure to win the vote and form the government. But the question is, will the numbers hold? As of now, no surprises are expected on that front. So who will head the next government? This man, Shehbaz Sharif, the brother of Nawaz Sharif and the current leader of opposition, he is the unanimous choice of all opposition parties. So if they win the vote, Shehbaz Sharif will be the new Wazir-e-Azam or Prime Minister. Well, not so fast. Imran Khan being Imran Khan, he could throw another googly. Pakistani media reports say he is weighing his options. The first option is mass resignation. Right before the no-confidence vote, the Imran Khan government could resign en masse. Can they do this? Yes, they can. Both the Speaker and the Deputy Speaker of the National Assembly are from the PTI, and by all means they will accept the resignations. Next question. How will this change things? It will paralyze the National Assembly. It will put the opposition in a tough spot. Even if they form a government, how will they function without 164 lawmakers? They will need these lawmakers to get laws passed, and this will put them under pressure, under moral pressure at the very least, to hold a by-election. So is this the plan? Well, some of Imran Khan's friends suggest it is, like Sheikh Rashid Ahmed. Speaking to reporters in Islamabad, he said the party is indeed mulling a mass resignation. Listen to this.
अगर कोई ये समझ रहा है कि हम हथियार फेंकने जा रहे हैं तो नहीं जनाब, इन चोरों और लुटेरों और डाकुओं के खिलाफ आखिरी सांस तक लड़ेंगे। और मैं तो इमरान खान साहब को कल कह चुका हूं, अभी भी कहूंगा कि आखिरी ऑप्शन हमारे पास ये है कि हम इस्तीफे दे दें, क्योंकि इन चोरों के साथ मुल्क नहीं चल सकता। ये मसाले वाले और ये पताशे वाले और मकसूद, ये सब अब पाकिस्तान आएंगे। गैर मुल्की ताकतें जो पाकिस्तान में अपनी सोचों को मुसल्लत करना चाहती हैं और आज़ादी को सलब करना चाहती हैं, हमारी गैर जानबदारी को सलब करना चाहती हैं, इंशाअल्लाह ताला उनको शिकस्त होगी। तमाम पाकिस्तान में अगर कोई ये समझ रहा है कि कौम को समझ नहीं आई कि क्या हुआ है और कैसे हुआ है और किस तरह हुआ है और किसने किया है, कौम को सब कुछ समझ है।
Possibility number 2, declare an emergency. On what basis? A national security threat. Can Imran Khan do this? Well, yes, he can. There is a provision for this in the Pakistani constitution. Article 232. It allows the President of Pakistan to proclaim an emergency citing a threat to the country's stability. Who is the President of Pakistan? A certain Arif Alvi, another member of the PTI, that's Imran Khan's party, and he will not shy away from imposing an emergency if that is what Imran Khan decides. The question is, what will it lead to? Another vote in Parliament. The country's National Assembly will decide if this move is constitutional or not, if imposing an emergency is constitutional or not. And if they lose the vote, they can take the matter to the Supreme Court, and the cycle will continue. So in short, it will lead to chaos. Will Imran Khan declare an emergency? Well, he might just. Says who? The same man, Sheikh Rashid. Last month, he told reporters that he has advised Imran Khan to impose an emergency to escape the no-confidence vote. In fact, he's been giving a lot of advice to Imran Khan. Do you know what he plans to do himself after all of this settles down? He says he's going to quit politics and soon become a television anchor. You have to listen to this.
ये चोर बाजारी, ये लूट मार जिन्होंने इस मुल्क को लूटा, नोशा, ये सियासी मुर्दे, इनको दफन करना मेरा सियासी जिम्मेदारी है। वरना मैं उम्र के हिस्से में अस्सलाम वालेकुम कहना चाहता था, क्योंकि मेरे पास अब काम नहीं था और यही काम है। और शायद मैं रमजान के बाद या ईद के बाद किसी एक टीवी पे बतौर एंकर भी आ रहा हूं।
That's interesting. He's pushing his leader to fight till the end, giving him ideas on what steps to take next, impose an emergency, go for mass resignation. He himself is mulling an alternative career. No wonder Imran Khan is in the situation that he's in. That's what happens when you surround yourself with shapeshifters. We'll be tracking this story closely. 10 p.m. IST is when Imran Khan speaks. For the moment, we head to Sri Lanka. What started as an economic crisis has now become a full-blown political crisis too. The government of the day has no majority, no cabinet, and no public support. The Rajapaksas may still be the leaders of Sri Lanka, but they've lost the authority to govern. Let me show you something first. Those pictures are from last night. These protesters were outside Temple Trees, the official residence of Sri Lanka's Prime Minister. It is currently occupied by Mahinda Rajapaksa, who's still the Prime Minister, and for days these protesters have been knocking on his door. They want him to step down. Also his brother, the President, Gotabaya Rajapaksa, they want both of them to step down. But the Rajapaksas have refused to give up power. The opposition has threatened to move a no-confidence motion. Sajith Premadasa is the leader of opposition in Sri Lanka, and he has made a demand from the Rajapaksas: fix the economy or leave office. That's what he said, and I have his statement with me. Let me quote from what he's said. The government needs to address the financial crisis and work to improve governance, or we will move a no-confidence motion. It is imperative that Sri Lanka must avoid a disorderly debt default. The government must work to suspend debt and appoint financial advisors to start off the process of restructuring debt. So there is advice here, plus a clear warning. What was the trigger? A new report. It said that Sri Lanka could run out of diesel this month. Fuel pumps could go dry by the end of April. Colombo is getting some supplies from India. New Delhi, in fact, has extended a $500 million line of credit for this. India has also given another $1 billion credit line. This is for food supplies and medicines. Under this, New Delhi is sending around 40,000 tons of rice to Colombo. But Sri Lanka is exhausting its credit lines fast. Diesel shipments began on the 1st of April. With the money that's left, Colombo can get just 3 more shipments this month. The credit line will be fully exhausted by then. What happens next? What are Sri Lanka's options? Reach out to India again, seek a further extension of the credit line. Is India going to oblige this time? Looks like it is. New Delhi is willing to help for more reasons than one. The economic crisis in Sri Lanka has a direct impact on India. More Sri Lankans are fleeing the country. This week, a family of 4 reached Rameshwaram in South India. So far, 16 Sri Lankan refugees have arrived in India. 15 more tried to cross the border, to flee the country, in fact. But they were caught by the Sri Lankan Navy. And these are the official figures. Reports say there could be more trying to escape. Will this lead to a refugee crisis? The Indian High Commissioner to Sri Lanka has rejected the possibility of a refugee crisis. He's also dismissed claims that India is deploying troops to Sri Lanka. These rumors have been doing the rounds for a while now, especially on social media. There were reports that said that Indian troops had arrived in Sri Lanka to help maintain law and order. Now, India has categorically dismissed all of these claims and reports, saying that there are no Indian troops in Sri Lanka. At the same time, India continues to extend help. But remember, credit lines are not a permanent solution. What Sri Lanka needs at the moment is a bailout. And I've said this before, as a financial experts, Sri Lanka must get a bailout. It needs to restructure its debt, apart from getting monetary relief. So they've set up an expert panel. It will advise the government on the bailout talks. They've also got a new governor for the central bank, and he has raised interest rates by 700 basis points today to arrest the fall in the value of the Sri Lankan rupee. It's been in free fall. What about the finance minister? Ali Sabri was sworn in earlier this week. We told you about it. Within a day, he resigned. The president has not accepted his resignation. So technically, Sabri is still the finance minister of Sri Lanka, even though he has rejected the job at hand. Who then will lead the bailout talks? WION spoke to Arjuna Ranatunga earlier today, the former cricketer and lawmaker, and he has accused the Rajapaksa government of gross mismanagement and corruption. Listen in.
They should have gone to the IMF and discussed with IMF. The problem with IMF, they don't allow you to use the money you want. It is all about, if they are going to do it for development, there should be transparency, which these people doesn't like. I will compare the government with the Sri Lankan Cricket Board. So if the government is failing and the minister doesn't have the backbone to put a stop to it, because ultimately the problem we have here, every time a government comes, a minister comes in, the cricket board, corrupt people know how to tap the minister. It has happened for so many years, and it is happening now.
Those are serious charges, but they're no secret either. Ranatunga could be referring to the Chinese projects. Many of them were cleared by Mahinda Rajapaksa. They're now mired in corruption. And we've already told you about the many policy decisions that have backfired. All those chickens are now coming home to roost. Yesterday was the biggest test of India's neutrality on Ukraine. This time it was double the pressure, double the stakes. But once again, India stood firm. For the 10th time, New Delhi abstained from voting at the United Nations. What was so special about this vote? It was not a condemnation. It was not a political statement. It was a bid to remove Russia from the United Nations Human Rights Council, UNHRC. Before the vote, Russia had a warning. Do not abstain. If you abstain, it will be considered an unfriendly gesture. Nonetheless, India did exactly that. It was among the 58 countries that abstained from voting. What followed was political drama. The General Assembly did vote to suspend Russia, but Russia did not wait around. They decided to quit themselves.
The
Russian Federation made a decision about ending or suspending its membership in the Human Rights Council before the end of its term on the 7th of April of this year. Unfortunately, in today's conditions, The Council is in fact monopolized by one group of states who use it for their short-term aims.
Важного компонента универсальной системы поощрения и защиты прав человека.
Does this change anything? Or is it just Russia playing politics? You see, the General Assembly had only suspended Russia, which means it was temporary. At some point in the future, Russia could have re-entered. But that's not the case now. Now Russia has quit the Human Rights Council altogether. So any re-entry will depend on Moscow. But coming back to India, how is the world reacting to India's abstention? So far, no reaction really, neither from Russia nor from America. But India's position has made one thing amply clear. Neutrality is not a matter of convenience, it is a matter of principle. Until now, the West was pressing India to vote against Russia. Now Russia is doing the same thing, pressing India to vote against the West. Neither side has had any success. What does that tell you? That no amount of pressure will sway India. And by the way, there is a lot of pressure. US officials are now warning of significant consequences. Let me quote their exact words. This is what they said. The consequences of a more explicit strategic alignment with Moscow would be significant and long-term. Well, in this part of the world, we call it a threat. Also, America has completely misjudged India's position. They're warning against a more explicit alignment with Russia, but there is no alignment in the first place, and that is the whole point of neutrality. Once again, the US is falling back on Cold War rhetoric, either with us or against us. Imagine if every country worked like that. Conflicts would never end. There would be no accountability. And that is why India has abstained. Because removing Russia from the UNHRC is a political move. It is not about justice. Let me quote what India's UN ambassador said after the abstention. We firmly believe that all decisions should be taken fully respecting due process, as all our democratic polity and structures enjoin us to do. So here's a question. Was due process followed here? Chances are Russia did commit those atrocities in Bucha. But where is the investigation? Where is the proof? The fact is, America wanted a symbolic victory over Russia, because if you want justice, don't stop at Russia. Take a look at this list of countries. All of them are members of the United Nations Human Rights Council. Eritrea, China, Pakistan, Qatar. These countries have committed documented atrocities. They have been investigated and proven. Why is no one suspending them? China has jailed 1 million Uyghurs in labor camps. America's Congress has called it a genocide. So why no resolution against China? Why not expel China too? Like I said, it's not about justice. It's about scoring political points, which is why you need countries like India, countries that respect the process, not the politics. And on this, New Delhi is not alone. Like I told you, 58 countries abstained along with India, all of South Asia and most of West and Southeast Asia. They abstained. What does that tell you? The emerging world understands the political games at the United Nations. India, better than most. Think back to 1948. India took the Kashmir issue to the United Nations. There was no help. Again in 1971, India fought a war to liberate Bangladesh. What did the UN Security Council do? They tried to push multiple resolutions against the war. All of them were vetoed by the Soviet Union. The bottom line is this: the big powers have always manipulated the United Nations. If their agenda fails, they throw tantrums. Let me give you another example. In 2018, the United States quit from the same UN Human Rights Council. America quit. Do you know why? Because of an apparent bias against Israel. But when the president changed, so did America's position. They rejoined the Human Rights Council, and this shows their attitude towards United Nations agencies. It's not about seeking justice. It's not about fair and due process. It's about diplomatic one-upmanship. India's abstention is a reminder of that reality. And I can tell you that the West is not done. They've announced a new round of sanctions on Russia, and this time it's personal. Vladimir Putin's daughters have been sanctioned by the US and the UK. Their assets will be frozen and their travel will be banned. I know it sounds dramatic, but these sanctions are largely symbolic because both women live in secrecy. We do not know where they reside, where they work, or what their assets are. Nonetheless, the West is on the hunt. They believe that Putin has stashed his wealth under his daughters' name. if they can find those assets, they can put pressure on Putin. But like I said, it's all conjecture. Very little is known about Putin's daughters. In fact, Putin likes it that way. He never discusses them in public. The most he said was this in 2015.
They say, and it's true, that they live in Russia and have never left to live anywhere permanently. They were educated only in Russia. They have only studied in Russian universities. I am proud of them. They are studying and working.
They studied in Russia, they live in Russia, and I'm proud of them. That's all that Putin has ever said about his daughters publicly. Not really a family man. But reports do pop up from time to time, and from those reports you get a decent picture. Vladimir Putin has 2 daughters from his ex-wife. The elder is called Maria Vorontsova. She was born in 1985. She studied biology at St. Petersburg, and now she's working as an academic. Vorontsova also dabbles in the corporate world. She co-owns a medical company. The younger daughter is Katerina Tikhonova. She had a brief stardom in 2013. That's when she won an international dance competition. But since then, she's also disappeared. Nowadays, Tikhonova is dabbling in academics and business. Her husband is the son of a long-time Kremlin ally. This is all that we know about Putin's family. His daughters are 36 and 35 years old. They spend very little time with their father, and their affairs are treated as state secrets. So what exactly is the West hoping to achieve here? Perhaps a repeat of 1967. That's when a certain Svetlana Stalin landed in New York, the only daughter of Soviet leader Joseph Stalin. She had defected to the Western camp. In fact, she denounced both her father's legacy and the Soviet Union. Stalin was long dead by then, but the symbolic effect was important. Could something similar happen with Putin's daughters? Looks unlikely at the moment. Reports say Putin's daughters are firmly in his corner. They support his war in Ukraine. They also reject international media coverage of this invasion. So defection is a bridge too far. Their best bet is to create some hype. And even that is not a convincing position, and I will show you how. Let me show you the British government statement on these sanctions. This is what the government of the UK has said. The lavish lifestyles of the Kremlin's inner circle will be further targeted from today. The UK has coordinated these sanctions with the US in another show of global unity on action against Russia's illegal invasion of Ukraine. Global unity? Coordinating with the US hardly counts as global unity, especially when you consider this report. Russian oligarchs are finding new safe havens away from Western sanctions. Guess their number 1 destination? NATO ally Turkey. Apparently, Russians are pumping money into Turkey. They're buying 4 apartments at once. Why 4? Because that makes them eligible for the golden passport. You see, in Turkey, you can buy citizenship. Only 2 conditions. 1, you must buy real estate worth $250,000, hence the 4 apartments. And 2, you cannot sell for 3 years. It's a win-win for both sides. Turkey desperately needs the money. Russia desperately needs a safe haven. Let me show you these numbers. Since the war broke out, 14,000 Russians have arrived in Turkey, some of them with their yachts, others with thick wads of cash. Some of that money was deposited in banks, which means they had to be swapped for foreign currency. Guess how much money are we talking about? Around $3 billion in 2 days. Now, this is publicly available information. And Turkey is not even trying to hide it. In fact, their foreign minister is openly inviting oligarchs to Turkey. These reports raise 2 questions. Number 1, why is the West giving Turkey a free pass? You blame India for buying Russian oil, which is not even sanctioned, by the way. At the same time, your own ally Turkey is openly flouting your sanctions. Question number 2, how can Turkey be trusted as a mediator anymore? They're profiting from this war. They're getting valuable investment from Russia, yet that same Turkey is brokering peace. How is this not a conflict of interest? If the West is serious about ending this war, they need to review their strategy. Suspending Russia from the United Nations bodies will not work. Neither will sanctioning Putin's family. If you're serious, crack down on profiteers like Turkey, not neutral states defending their national interest. Lots of serious politics. Our next story is about Elon Musk, the newest board member of Twitter. And I'm sure you know this already. He has acquired a 9.2% stake in Twitter. This makes him the largest stakeholder in the company. His share is even larger than that of Jack Dorsey. And if that wasn't enough, Musk has now set his eyes on Facebook too. In a recent tweet, he said the company, quote-unquote, gives him the willies. A strong feeling of discomfort rather. And this has led to speculation that he could buy a stake in Facebook as well. So what is this man up to? No one really knows for sure. What we do know is that he has disrupted every field that he's entered, be it payment systems, automobiles, space research, neurotechnology. Elon Musk has aced every task he has undertaken. Our next report tries to decode his mind and ambition.
Entrepreneur, investor, business magnate, sometimes a Twitter troll, but mostly a genius innovator. Meet Elon Musk, the CEO of Tesla, the founder of Neuralink, the chief engineer at SpaceX, and the world's richest man. It's hard to wrap one's head around how much this man has achieved in just 50 years of life. He started his career in 1995 by founding a software company called Zip2. 4 years later, he sold it to Compaq for $300 million. A year later, he co-founded payments company PayPal, then sold it to eBay for $1.5 billion. He took this money to launch a rocket company in 2002, SpaceX, a company aimed at making humanity a multi-planetary species. Even as the rockets were being made, he launched an electric car company, Tesla, a brand which gave birth to a whole new industry.
All right.
A few years down the line, he launched the Boring Company to dig tunnels under Los Angeles and solve the city's grinding problem of commuting. Somewhere along the way, he also conceived the Hyperloop, a new form of superfast intercity transportation. And 5 years back, he launched Neuralink, a neurotechnology company to merge the human brain with computers. To put it simply, this man has taken on almost everything, and his bets have paid off. Every company he's launched is the de facto leader of its field. Is it because he works too hard, or because of the brand he's built? You see, Musk's personal life is as dazzling as his business life.
There's tobacco and marijuana in there.
He has smoked up in talk shows, danced his heart out when he's happy, sold flamethrowers to ridicule his critics, proposed a rating site for journalists, called politicians names for questioning him, and named his son after a song and an aeroplane. The man likes to make a splash in everything he does. He doesn't care to project the holier-than-thou image, which most of his contemporaries are obsessed with.
Oh, man, it didn't go through.
He tweets his mind, speaks his heart, and acts on whim, no matter the troubles it may land him in.
Welcome to Tesla's semi-truck event.
His critics dismiss him as a lunatic. Not everybody agrees, though. To his fans, Musk is simply a disruptor who has embarked on a series of missions, a mission to make the world more connected, a mission to end our reliance on fossil fuels, a mission to inhabit other planets in the universe, and above everything else, a mission to stop caring about what people think about him. People may call him crazy, but as Steve Jobs once said, those who are crazy enough to think they can change the world are the ones who actually do. Elon Musk may only be living this maxim.
Our next story is from Shanghai, China's biggest Wuhan virus hotspot. And why just China? Perhaps the world's biggest hotspot. 21,000 cases were reported today in just one day, and it's a record high. But numbers don't even begin to describe the picture. Shanghai is struggling, so much so that China is moving patients out of the city. Tens of thousands of people have been transported, and these are people who tested positive. Why are they being moved out? Because Shanghai has no room for them. The quarantine centers are overflowing, so China is building more isolation camps outside Shanghai. According to one report, 30,000 Shanghai residents were sent to Zhejiang alone. That's what you get with zero COVID, zero success, total chaos. A fierce pushback has begun. Locals are venting on healthcare workers. Earlier today, we got a video. Take a look at this. This time, even Beijing could not hide the public anger. Such outpouring of dissatisfaction is rare in China. What has made it worse is the heavy-handed approach of the Communist Party. I'm going to show you a video, but before I do that, I must tell you that this footage is graphic. We advise viewer discretion. And these images are from Shanghai. A man had tested positive here. He was taken away by the local authorities. While they were taking him away, his pet closely followed him. That's when a healthcare worker picked up a stick and beat the dog to death. Barbaric and inhumane. That's the only way to describe what's happening in Shanghai. Healthcare workers have the license to do whatever they please. They can resort to extreme measures if needed. And this approval has come straight from the top. Earlier, a Chinese Vice Premier had visited Shanghai. He said officials must focus on eliminating cases, quote-unquote, without hesitation. And here is what it led to. Parents were separated from children if they tested positive. Pictures from the Shanghai Public Health Center are going viral. They're on your screens now. Reports say these are children whose parents tested positive. They were separated from their families and taken to a health center. Apparently, there are 10 nurses taking care of 200 children. These are heartbreaking pictures. China says these children have now been reunited with their families, but multiple reports contest this claim. What happened to China's public health capacities? What happened to building hospitals overnight? The entire health system is overwhelmed because of the Omicron variant. There is a serious shortage of food. We've shown this to you before, how people are fighting for supplies in Shanghai. They're now protesting, and Beijing is trying to silence them. Here is a video that you may have seen. Shanghai residents protesting from their balconies and demanding supplies. Suddenly a drone appears. Yes, a drone, and it makes an announcement. Please comply with COVID restrictions. Control your soul's desire for freedom. Do not open the window or sing. This is what the drone is saying. And this is what it has come down to. These people don't have food to eat, but their government is sending drones to silence them. More than 2 years after China unleashed the virus on the world, the Chinese state still cannot get its priorities straight. To Israel now, where a series of attacks, in fact, has thrown up a challenge for Prime Minister Naftali Bennett. He could now lose power. A member of the ruling coalition has defected to the opposition. The Bennett government is now in a minority. And he's not in a minority, but he's looking vulnerable. A familiar face is rising up to challenge him. It is former Prime Minister of Israel, Benjamin Netanyahu. Our next report has all the details.
You will be received with all due respect and with open arms.
Naftali Bennett's problems are growing. First, a spate of attacks killed 13 people in Israel. Now, a crisis within the ruling coalition is threatening his government. Edith Silman, a relatively obscure coalition partner, has withdrawn support. Bennett has lost his majority in Israel's parliament, the Knesset. But no side has a clear upper hand. The Knesset is tied. 60 lawmakers with the government, 60 with the opposition. Former Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu is mounting a challenge. He wants to stage a comeback. Netanyahu is courting more members of the ruling coalition. He promptly welcomed Edith Silman into his fold.
Edith, you proved that what guides you is the concern for the Jewish identity of the State of Israel. You proved that real public representatives are acting with their conscience, and there is no greater right than that. I call on everyone who is elected by the votes of the nationalist camp to join Edith and return home to us. You will be received with all due respect and with open arms.
Netanyahu is eyeing the Prime Minister's chair again. With just one more defection, he can come back to power. Bennett now faces the challenge of keeping his flock together. Even if he manages to stop future defections, there is no guarantee he'll be able to pursue his legislative agenda. The 60-60 split in the Knesset will paralyze the government. It could lead to another election. If Israel goes to the polls again, the Prime Minister will be the underdog. Bennett's 10-month-long tenure has exposed his weaknesses. He doesn't enjoy mass support, and when compared to Netanyahu, he comes across as inexperienced. The recent attacks have also put Bennett on the back foot. Netanyahu swiftly launched a campaign. He is trying to portray the Bennett government as weak.
We came here tonight to tell this weak and dangerous government, go home. The truth is simple, the days of this government are counted. It's the end of the road.
Netanyahu has begun preparing for another election. If that happens, it will be Israel's 5th election since 2019. The former Prime Minister is confident the momentum is on his side. But the opinion polls disagree. If elections were to happen today, he would still struggle to cobble up the numbers. Despite the odds, Netanyahu is trying. He can find solace in history. No party has ever won a majority in Israel. The country runs on coalitions. Bureau Report, WION, World is One.
America has no permanent friends or enemies, only interests. 4 decades since Henry Kissinger said those words, they remain relevant. America has no problem hobnobbing with troublemakers as long as they serve its interests. Case in point, Turkey, a country that openly defies Washington, D.C. It buys Russian weapons, it attacks American allies, it slams American hegemony, even blames the U.S. every time there's domestic unrest. What does the U.S. do in return? It sells weapons to Turkey. Look at this headline. The United States plans to sell F-16 fighter jets to Turkey. Why? Because apparently it serves its interests. And I'm not the one saying it, the Americans are. I have a statement with me. It is from the US State Department on the potential sale of these jets. Let me tell you what it says. There are very real challenges in US-Turkey relations. However, we will continue to stress to Ankara the importance of maintaining interoperability with the alliance and utilizing its military capabilities to bolster NATO efforts and advance our mutual goals. That last phrase, advance our mutual goals, says the same United States which recently sanctioned Turkey for buying the S-400 missile defense system from Russia. Now, S-400 is a surface-to-air missile defense system. In 2017, Turkey decided to buy it from Russia. It signed a $2.5 billion deal with Moscow. The US called that deal a threat to its interests. In December 2020, the US punished Turkey. They imposed CAATSA, Countering America's Adversaries Through Sanctions Act, CAATSA. This is a law in the US. Under this law, America withheld export licenses to Turkey. It banned loans and credit lines from American banks. It barred global financial bodies from giving loans. So the message from the US was clear and simple. Turkey should not buy Russian weapons. 2 years on, there's a new president in power, and his administration wants Turkey to work on mutual goals. What explains the shift? The war in Ukraine is one big reason. Turkey is supporting Ukraine. It has extended diplomatic support. It is also sending weapons to Kiev. Does that mean the S-400 deal has been called off? Well, it hasn't. It remains in place. And remember, Turkey is not any other country. It is America's NATO ally, although it's rarely acted like one. I'll give you some examples. In 2016, when the Turkish military attempted a coup, or is said to have attempted a coup, President Erdogan pointed the finger at one source, the United States of America. He blamed a US-based cleric who's been living there since 1999 to have orchestrated the coup. His minister said the US supported this cleric, Fethullah Gulen, in spreading dissent on Turkish soil. And that's just one example. Here's another. According to War on the Rocks, Turkey has on several occasions held American nationals hostage. Why? To extract diplomatic concessions from the White House. We have some names. This is Serkan Golgi, a NASA physicist. In 2018, Turkey sentenced him to jail, accused him of terror links. He was released 3 years later after repeated requests from the Pentagon. This is Andrew Brunson, an American pastor. He was in a Turkish prison for 2 years over unproven charges of espionage. He was released only after an intervention from US President Donald Trump. Next, we have Ismail Kul, an American professor from Delaware. In 2016, he was sentenced to prison, accused of taking part in a coup against Erdogan. He was released 2 years later, but is still barred from returning to the United States. Turkey is also fighting American allies in Syria, the Kurds. They partnered with America to fight the ISIS. The US abandoned them. Now Turkey is fighting them. It's encroaching on their lands along the Syrian border, bombing their cities and villages into submission. The last attack was reported just a couple of days back. Turkish forces demolished a Kurdish base in northern Raqqa. What does all of this tell you? That Turkey may be America's NATO ally, but its actions have been that of a foe. And the Americans know this. They know that Turkey cannot be trusted, yet they choose to sell weapons to Turkey. Interests come above everything else. Now, from fighter jets, we come to a story about cars, a vehicle that is essential for most people these days. Either you let app-based cabs and their surcharges take you for a ride, or you put that money into an EMI and buy a car that fits your budget. That's what most of us do. But in Singapore, not everyone can buy a car. In Singapore, not everyone has the right to buy a car. Before buying a car, you must first buy the right to buy a car. How much for? As much as 99,000 Singapore dollars. That's almost the price of a car. What explains this bizarre rule? Our next report has the answer.
How much do you plan to spend on a new car? Singapore will take you for every penny. The country does not allow everyone to buy a car. You heard that right. Not everyone in Singapore has the right to own a car. The right comes with a fee. We are talking about $99,999, which is 7.5 million rupees. Basically, you can't wake up in Singapore one fine day, sip a cup of fine coffee and think to yourself, what a fine day to check out a new car. Next thing you know, you are test driving and vroom, you have a car booked. Doesn't work that way in Singapore. Before you buy a car, Singapore expects you to buy the right to own a car. It's called the Certificate of Entitlement, or COE. You need to bid for this license. There are 5 different categories, from A to E. Category A, for example, is for cars below 1600 cc. Basically, your small cars. The hatchbacks. A license for it will cost you up to $73,000, which is almost the price of the car. A Mitsubishi Space Star, for example, costs around $84,000. A Mazda 2 hatchback costs $89,000. A license for it again costs $73,000. Meaning, throw in some more money and you can buy another car. What's worse, even after spending such a hefty amount, the license will only be valid for 10 years. In some cases, 5. So what kind of cruel joke exactly is Singapore playing? What explains its certificate of entitlement? We look for answers. Turns out, this cruel rule is designed to control traffic in Singapore. Look at the size of this country. It's all of 728 square kilometers. That's half the size of Delhi, by the way. Singapore used to be a British colony. Today, it is a major manufacturing and financial hub. To many, including economist Milton Friedman, Singapore is the example of how to do development right. All the accolades in the world, yet Singapore has little land. It also has limited road space. The country has dedicated 12% of its land area to roads. It's a far higher percentage than in many countries. And yet, it is not enough. Singapore is home to 5.7 million people. If everyone began buying cars, Singapore would be stuck in traffic. And this is where the certificate helps. Its hefty fee works as a deterrent. Or does it? Today, there are nearly 1 million vehicles on Singapore's roads. Of them, 600,000 are private cars. Singapore's car ownership rate is roughly 11%. America's car ownership rate, for comparison, is 80%. Europe's is 50%. According to Singapore's Land Transport Authority, at least 6% of the country's car owners own more than one car. Meaning, the rich can buy the right to own a car twice over. Has any other country experimented with similar policies? Not that we know of. Let us know if you happen to know any. Bureau Report, WION World is One.
With that, it's a wrap. We're leaving you with Gravitas images. Thanks very much for watching. We'll see you on Monday.